black. I was born black, and when I die, I will be black. I just don't want to die because I'm black. Now, I read that. That's not an original statement by me. I read that, but when I read it, it spoke to my spirit. Because, see, still here in 2021, we're not judged by our character. People see your color first. Then they make a judgment upon you. So on this occasion, we gather here today to remember with reverence the 91st anniversary that led to martial law, deployment of the Armed Texas National Guard, and the Texas Rangers were also involved. As we look backward to that time, we can see similar things happening here today, not just yesterday. They're still happening. So yesterday, in the heart of our country's Great Depression, a 5-year-old girl named Hilda Hampton was just finishing her bath while living in Dallas. Her mother heard the announcer on the radio say, "This is an urgent bulletin. The trial of George Hughes, a Negro farmhand accused of assaulting a white woman, has been interrupted in the Grayson County Courthouse by an angry mob." Hilda's mother knew what this meant. She exclaimed, "Lord have mercy." She tried to call her parents who lived in Sherman because she knew that there was trouble. Hilda Hampton went on to become Dr. McEnroe. I'm sure some of you remember her as she has spoken here in Grayson County back in 2014. Dr. McEnroe grew up in Texas and frequently visited her grandparents' home here in Sherman. So it is from her book that I will relate the stories that I would like to share with you. As you have heard, at the turn of the 20th century, Sherman was touted as the Athens of Texas, prospering from the cotton industry and an excellent railway system. The city prided itself as a civilized one with 3 colleges and more magnificent churches per square mile than any other city in Texas. And that's still true today. Their municipal sponsored bands, including one for colors, and several acres of beautiful parks. And there was a separate one for colors. Prosperity in the Sherman black community was obvious. Black people dressed well in the latest fashion because, see, we know how to dress. We lived in appointed homes, we drove beautiful horse-ridden buggies and Model T Fords, and we educated our children. Children of color, even back then, was going to college. But as the Depression era approached, the cotton industry declined, and the rural whites were experiencing hard times. There was a class of poor white tenants on area farms who were openly resentful of the black presence of people coming to Sherman for their customary Saturday gatherings. The whites couldn't help but notice the progress and the prosperity of the Sherman blacks. With that, they saw an increase in the levels of envy, jealousy, and hostility. So now we talk about the 9th day of May 1930. With the riot, the hopes and dreams of many black communities went up in smoke. Hilda's grandparents stood outside of their home, and they had the children to get every pot, bucket, tub, barrel, anything that would hold water in case the mob came to burn down their homes. But that day, the mob didn't travel down the road to Hilda's grandparents' house. However, there were other businesses and industries that were burned. Some of those businesses, of those entrepreneurs, they built again. Some didn't. Some moved to what we now call South Oak Cliff in Dallas. Nevertheless, they persevered. It began to rain that day, that night, as George Hughes' body was burned. But no matter how much it rained, it didn't stop the smoking fire that lingered after his body was burned. So when I say that this story is not taught in Texas history, it's not taught in Grayson County history, it's not even taught in Denison Sherman history. I have lived in Denison Sherman all my life. I lived for 51 years in Denison, the last 16 years in Sherman. I never heard this story. So what I'm relating to you is something that I had to read and research because I didn't know. I questioned my children and I asked them. I thought perhaps when we graduated in 1973, maybe it was overlooked. My daughter, who graduated from Dixon High School in 1996, she had never heard this story. We are hiding this part of our history, and it shouldn't be here. It should be acknowledged and dealt with. With that being said, as it was in 1930, so it is in 2021. Black people are still being targeted because of the color of their skin. It is thought that people of color, we have to justify that we're even worthy to be called a victim. Mr. Hughes was described as being a bit crazy, but being crazy is not a crime. Sitting in your home eating ice cream, it's not a crime. Jogging along the street at night, that's not a crime. Bird watching, it's not a crime. But there have been case after case where people of color was doing something very innocent, but yet we were targeted. We put our hands up, we're wrong. We put our hands down, we're wrong. We sit, we are wrong. We run, we are wrong. We are just wrong. But why? Because of the color of our skin. It seems as if in today's society, the color of black people's skin makes me the enemy. You know nothing about me, but you see the color of my skin. So as it yesterday, it was George Hughes. So today, it is George Floyd. Let's make tomorrow a better day. I guess we're still trying to realize Dr. King's dream, where we're not seen by our color, but by our character.